Hello, everybody. So I'm back again um, with the second part review of The Memory Keeper's Daughter. First off, let me apologize. One, for the way that I look. I'm actually like coming down with a cold, so I have my good old like turmeric and honey tea, which works wonders. I wish I had some ginger, but I don't. So you just gotta roll with what it is that you have. um, so that's why I look a hot ass mess. But also, I needed to get back on here and just kind of let you guys know I am continuing to read this book. I believe it's been like probably 2 weeks. So I'm so sorry for just the amount of time since my last video. Anyways, so since it has been so long, my apologies for not quite remembering where I left off at. Um, but so I'm just going to back up a little bit, or I'm just going to talk about how. So basically, um, the um, so basically the daughter, the daughter who was given away. Her name is, what is the dang on girl's name? Phoebe. Phoebe is the daughter's name. She is being raised with Caroline, and Caroline has left Kentucky, and now she is now living in Pittsburgh, and they really have just like they have their own life. Caroline has been working as kind of like an assistant for this lady, her elderly father, and she's been living in her house with them, and they really have developed a strong friendship and everything like that. And it's been really good because um, she's had a place to stay and things like that. Also, with Caroline and Phoebe um, being in Kentucky, not Kentucky, but um, being in Pittsburgh, Caroline has actually managed to develop a whole network of friends and people that actually have children um, that are just like Phoebe as well too. So they pretty much are. So they've been working together and trying to, um, now they're at the point where they are trying to um, get in public schools so that they will have special needs classes for children that pretty much are on the I don't want to say slow scale, but that are just slower advanced, as far as like advancement in terms of learning. And so she really has just, she really has, Phoebe has come a long way. And not only that, not only has Phoebe come a long way in terms of, yes, she's just now kind of um, like speaking, although she can't say like full sentences or anything like that. She is not a nonverbal child. She is speaking slowly, and she does say a few words, but also she is able to pick up things and kind of like hold things. And when they talk about her in this section of the book, I believe she's around 6 or 7 or something like that. Um, Also, they delve into, as far as Caroline goes, when she actually left, before she went to Pittsburgh, Caroline, um, uh, she met a truck driver named Al. Now, she was the truck driver, or he was the truck driver that actually helped her when Phoebe was still very much when Phoebe was still an infant. And this was like right after she made the decision. This was right after, excuse me, she had made the decision not to leave Phoebe in the institution, but to take her and keep her as her own child. And she was going to the grocery store and she needed to just get some milk and all those other things like that. And it was during this huge snowstorm or whatever. And then she just so happened to run into this truck driver named Al, who was very helpful. So later on, while she's in Pittsburgh, we it's told that Al is still around. He still comes back, and he is, when he has to go back out on the road, he comes back and he sees Phoebe and he sees Caroline often. And it actually wasn't like, Phoebe, it wasn't like Caroline had just given him her address, because when she left Kentucky, she really just left everybody. She didn't give anybody her telephone number, her address, or anything. Um, even when she was, even when she was communicating back and forth with David, through mail, just letting him know how Phoebe was doing. She was actually using P.O. boxes from all over the country. So nobody knew where she was. Um, uh, she was very specific about making sure that nobody knew where she was at. But Al actually managed to find her, and he found her in Pittsburgh, and they are in a full-fledged relationship. Although he's constantly in and out because of his job as a truck driver, um, she it is spoken about how she looks forward to him coming back. I believe he comes back maybe like once a week or maybe like once every couple weeks or whatever it is. And she also talks about how he, they're not just boyfriend and girlfriend, but he's actually proposed to her not once but twice, and both times Caroline has said no. She has turned him down. Um, However, this last time that he comes back, the lady who she is living with, excuse me, by this time the father has passed away. So Caroline is still staying in the house, and the lady tells her, she's like, look, this man loves you, and you really need to go ahead and be with him, like marry him. He wants to be with you, and I know that you look forward to seeing him all the time. So just go for it. And the one time when he does come down, he doesn't really say anything. But they're like all up on together and, being very schmoozy. And, obviously he's expressing his love for her and her the same. And she jumps right out and she's like, yes, yes, I will marry you. Before he even asks the question, because she's just like, you kind of get the feeling that it's like, okay, I have this man in my life, and let me stop playing. Let me stop playing and go ahead and lock this man down. You know, because he's been there pretty much since the beginning. The beginning with Phoebe and her, and he has pretty much treated Phoebe like his own daughter, even though they don't live together or anything. He loves her, he treats her with respect, and he's always there for her, and he's always there for Caroline. So she's like, let me just go ahead and just like lock this man down. And so everything pretty much is good with Caroline and Phoebe. Now, excuse me, I'm so sorry. Now, on the other side, with David and Nora, and with Paul, their life is, ever since David made the decision to give Phoebe away when she was born, when he saw that she wasn't going to be a quote unquote normal child, um, there has been a huge, um, like, separation between him and Nora. I believe the last time I was talking about, Nora kind of has like this constant, it's almost like she's in this constant state of grief. She feels like she can feel Phoebe's presence even though she isn't physically there, and it was just very, very hard. As Paul has gotten older, as they've gone through, really they're still together, they're still married, they're still there as a family, but they really aren't together. As time has gone on, as Paul has gotten older, the rift between them has gotten wider and wider. Um, David feels this. He feels this sense of, um, he just feels really bad about what it is that he did, the decision that he made in giving Phoebe away. He's never ever ever told Nora about it, and so he's been carrying that with him, and so he's holding that within himself. He is receiving the letters, the short but brief the brief letters from Caroline. So he's getting these updates about how Phoebe is doing, yet Nora knows nothing about this. So it's almost like he kind of has like two separate lives. He has this life, um, I guess maybe you really couldn't call it a life, but he has this life where, um, he made this decision to give Phoebe away, and he knows what's going on with Caroline, and they're in another state somewhere. And then he has his actual life with his wife Nora and with his son Paul. And he, those two are, they're not together. You understand? And it's just a lot. And then his job is, and then he almost kind of like immerses himself into his job as a doctor. And um and it's like they're literally just a married couple. It's like they're just two separate people, that just so happen, or let me say this, it's like they're just two people, um, that are just walking down this path, and they just so happen to be married. They really are. Nora has gotten to the point where it's like she she got a job. She got a job because she was tired of just kind of like staying in the house, not doing anything, kind of being like a housewife or whatever it is. So she got a job doing travel, being a travel agent, I believe it is, or something like that. She wanted to have her own stuff, even though David provided for the family and gives her everything that it is that she could want. It's just not enough. Um, and when I say not enough, um, it's not enough in terms of, like, yes, he provides her with a beautiful home. She doesn't have to, he makes sure that everything is good. He makes sure that Paul is good. He works hard for it. But she's like, no, I want to go out and I want to make my own money. I want to do this and I want to do that. And I think it's also, like a sense of freedom as well too. We are now in like the 70s. I think it's like 1970 or somewhere in between there, but it's like in the 70s. Excuse me. And I believe, what is it? Like the Vietnam War is happening, or has happened. So it's just her not wanting to be, or it's her wanting to feel um, separate from her husband, and not just depend on him for every single thing. And she also kind of gets that from her sister, Bree, who really is she's the younger sister, but she really is just kind of like the free bird. She just kind of does whatever it is that she wants to. Their personalities are very, very different, very different. But Nora expresses that she is really kind of, there's a slight tinge of jealousy um, that she has um, towards Bree. Not like she hates her or anything. They love each other very much and they're extremely close. But the fact that Bree really can go out, or that she just does whatever it is that she wants to, and she's not concerned with what people think about her and things like that, whereas Nora has always been the one to be very concerned about what other people thought about her and stuff like that. Um, so, anyways, as we, as we go on, um, as we go on, um, so for one of their trips that they go, because the the travel agency that Nora was working at, she had been working there for so long. I believe the person that originally owned it had passed away or something like that or whatever, so she was able to purchase it. And she's very good. I mean, she's very good at what she does. Um, she and her, David, and Paul go on this trip to Aruba. And David has become like obsessed with photography. Now, this all stemmed from, what was it? Was it Paul's like seventh or eighth birthday or somewhere around there? She had actually bought him this camera. She bought David a camera for like their anniversary. I think Paul was about 7 or 8, and they had an anniversary. And she bought David a camera. And so ever since then, David has just kind of been like obsessed with photography. He even put like a dark room, I believe like above their house or something like that, maybe like in an attic or whatever, somewhere in their house. And so that's like his big hobby. Um, and yeah, although it's great, it has that, him loving to take pictures and being in that dark room has also um, intensified the separation between he and Nora. Whenever he gets frustrated or doesn't want to talk to her, or vice versa, she'll go have her a drink and he'll go upstairs to the dark room. Um, Anyways, so they're in Aruba, and David is basically asking Nora to sit on the beach and take pictures and just like pose. And Nora's really over it. She's like super over it. She's like, David, I've been doing this, and he's like, oh no, 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 take this, take this, take this, take this, or whatever. And so this guy just so happens to come up or whatever it is. And so this guy's name is Howard. And so him and David are pretty much talking, and then they they decide to invite the gentleman over to their house for dinner. Nora cooks dinner. They all come over there. Everybody's at the house. They're eating. Howard and David are talking about photography, blah, 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 blah. Paul, at this time, I believe, is what, 13 years old. He's an extremely tall young man. And we also find out that he is very musical. He is very, very, very much into playing the guitar, and he is very good at it. He also loves to run as well too. So while Howard is there, it's we see that there is a relationship. I don't know if a relationship is the word, but something is developing between Howard and Nora. While Nora feels very left out because David is almost really like not paying her any attention. She feels like David, even though he wants to take pictures of her body and her laying in the sand and all this other type of stuff, she doesn't feel sexy at all. She just feels more or less like an object. She just feels like an object and not desirable in any way. So throughout the course of the evening, they all go outside and it's like really dark and they're kind of like on the beach or whatever it is, and then she just so happens to feel these hands like in her apron because she has her apron on because she was cooking and stuff like that, and she realizes that they're Howard's hands. And David is still yapping, yap, 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 just talking, 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 not even paying attention to anything. And then so Howard slips a piece of paper into her apron. And so even though it doesn't say it's his telephone number or his where his beach house is or anything like that, you just come to the assumption that it has to be one of those things. Or you come to the conclusion, you just assume that it has to be one of those things. So this makes Nora feel like she kind of gets like tingles up her spine and stuff like that because she said suddenly there's a man here which views her as desirable, despite the fact that it's not her husband, because she hasn't felt that way, or her husband has not expressed desire for her, or, they're just completely like on opposite ends of the scale at this point. Pretty much anybody viewing her in a desirable or sexual way is so exciting to her. So after they have dinner, everything is cool. They go back, and then the next day, Paul and David go out for. They have an early fishing trip that they're going to, and so Nora decides that she is going to go over to Howard's, and she sees him, and long story short, they end up becoming intimate with one another. And it's something that she doesn't regret at all. She doesn't regret it at all. There is a little thought in her mind because she took all of her clothes off when she was on the beach. Um, and she like never picked them up. So she was like, oh my goodness, I wonder if somebody saw them or whatever. But she really doesn't care at all. Um, and so for the duration of their trip, she goes back to see Howard multiple times. And then when they get back home, they kind of realize that, Paul is a little upset and things like that. Obviously, he's a teenager, so you just kind of think, chalk it up to him, just teenagers when they get up, when they get to a certain age, they're just upset at everything. But um, it comes out that when Paul was when he went for a run out on the beach, he actually saw his mother's clothes on the beach. And so he kind of had an idea that something had happened. And it's also revealed that it's also revealed that David saw Nora's clothes on the beach as well too, and he knows that Nora had some type of relation with Howard. Um, However, he up to this point of where I'm at, he doesn't say anything to her. And it's almost like he's not even upset with her. I think because they're so far apart in their relationship that it's almost to kind of be expected. And that's where it's at. And I want to say something. I want to say something. I know that I feel like where they are in their relationship is where if you've ever been married or if you've ever been in a long-term relationship with somebody, that we've all gotten to that point, and sometimes it can be where you become very comfortable. Either you become very comfortable, or like David and Nora, there is something that either one person has done or something has happened, and it just like drives a wedge in between you and that person. And yes, there may be a wedge there, but neither person wants to leave that other person. And so I feel like what has happened to them in their marriage is something that is not out of the norm. I feel like that's something that a lot of people experience and is probably very common in a lot of relationships, um, because these are things that do happen to the average person. And most people, now it doesn't have to be anything as extreme as, you know, your husband is delivering your babies and he gives one child away because he sees that, you know, the baby is born with a birth defect. It doesn't have to be anything as extreme as that, but just holding something back from another person, it will create a wedge. And I really like this book. As slow as it has been for me to read, not because it's not a good book, but just because I haven't really had the time to sit down and really read it like I wanted to. Um, it's a very relatable book. It really is. There are a lot of things that happen, excuse me, with people throughout life when you're raising children. Excuse me, if you have children and you're raising them, you go through these different stages of life. It talks about how the parents, how the parents see their children from being very young, and then they go into the toddler stage, and then they become this, and then your kids are like 13, 14 years old, and you look up and you're like, oh my gosh, like, where did this grown man come from? Or whatever it is. You just kind of see them become their own individual. um, and then the feelings that they go through, and how do you deal with them as a parent. I think this book does a really good job with it, and especially when you're talking about, um, especially when you incorporate a marriage and children into that, um, or being in a relationship. Being in a relationship is hard enough. I can't really speak from being married because I'm not married myself and haven't been. But when you're in a relationship, relationships require a lot of time. They require a lot of time. They require a lot of energy. And you have to, in order to have a successful relationship, you have to, you want to focus on your spouse, on that other person. And when you have a child, um, sometimes can can take you away from your significant other. You understand? Because you now have this person, this child, who requires all of your time and all of your energy. And even though you may not be intentionally doing anything to not want to focus on your significant other, it just kind of naturally happens. So I really do like this book and where I'm at right now. Hopefully, I will read this book a lot faster, and the next time, excuse me, and the next time I'm able to come back and do the last review, it will be because I have finished it. They do have questions in the back of this book, which really I'm really interested to just kind of see what the questions are. Um, and maybe I'll address or maybe I'll read some of the questions here. And that can just kind of be a little bit of food for thought. But yeah, this book is really good. Um, it definitely makes you think um, about life, relationships, the complexities of relationships and family and all of the things that can happen. And also, like, if something were to happen to you, how would you deal with it? You know? And the decisions that we make in life also, it makes you think about the decisions that we make in life. They may be snap decisions, and you think that you may be making the right decision. The impact that they can have on you later on down the road. And then you're almost like knee deep in it. You can't go back. You feel like, okay, I can't go back. I can't undo what I did. So you just have to continue to move forward. Um, and moving forward sometimes isn't always that easy, especially when it involves another, you know, a second or a third party. Anyways, that's where I'm at. I apologize if this video seems to be a little bit all over the place. I hope it wasn't. Again, I'm sorry. I look a mess, and also I am trying to fight this cold. So I will see you again. Bye.